Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to Take a Break. And I'm wondering, while we did the break, did you go do salat? Yeah, I hope you did. That's a good thing to do. We were talking about the salah as being an important part of Islam, about being a real Muslim. If I really want to be a Muslim, I must follow the 5 pillars of Islam. And this is all a part of what I'm talking about today when I talk about asa, the time. The time. How do I spend my time every day? A portion of my time is dedicated as a Muslim to give worship to Allah on His terms. Salawatul Khams, 5 times a day. Fajr, Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib and Isha. This is mandatory to be a Muslim. There's another subject too about how I spend my day, how I treat the people, what I say, the words that I use. How I treat myself, though, is also a part of my day. How much time do I spend a day in eating properly, exercising properly, and resting properly? Now, this is especially important to me because I do have a problem with that. All of us fall short. We're not perfect. And I'm a person who needs more rest, and I don't do it. I keep busy doing programs like this, traveling around the world, going out, visiting, trying to talk about Islam. So maybe on the Day of Judgment, Allah is going to ask me, why you didn't take better care of your body? Well, that's a good question. But all of us, we have excuses, don't we? Well, I just want to do one more thing. I need to work on one more website. I need to talk to one more person. I need to write one more book. But on the Day of Judgment, Allah is going to ask us about this. This is critical. How we spend our time is very important. And while we're talking about this subject of time, did you know that the Prophet ﷺ used this in another way? A famous hadith, it's called the Hadith of Jibril. And this is when the angel Gabriel came looking like a man, wearing white clothes, and his hair was like exceedingly black, meaning it was clean. And they didn't know who he was, but they wondered, how could this man have no signs of travel, yet here he is amongst us and we don't know him? And the Prophet ﷺ was asked by Jibril some questions. What is Islam? What is Ihsan? Then he came to a question, though, when he said, when is the time? Meaning, when is the last day? When is it going to be the finish of everything? Prophet Muhammad responded to him and he said, the one being asked, meaning me, doesn't know any more than the one asking. I don't know and you don't know. When is the hour? When is the last day? And he said, I don't know and you don't know. But the signs are these. And he gave clear signs that we see maybe in front of us today. He said, when a slave gives birth to the master, and when you see the Arabs, the desert Arabs, competing with each other to build taller buildings in the desert. Well, the first one, I think is clear to anybody living anywhere in the world. When we see the way the children treat their parents today, a small boy thinks it's funny to walk up to his parents and say, shut up, and the parents don't stop him. When a little girl goes to her parents and says, give me that, and they give it to her. And when they ask their children to do something, the parents respond by, I'm not going to do that. Go jump in the lake. Or talk really bad to their parents. We're seeing this more and more, and especially by watching certain television shows that I'm not going to mention their name, but you know which ones I'm talking about, that show the parents in a bad way. These programs help deteriorate the relationship in the family. Because what happens, the children pick that up. It's not funny. There's nothing funny about watching people disobey Allah. In fact, if you sit and watch something like this, this is an indication of very weak iman on your side. It's important for us to know how we spend our time, and watching certain television shows is definitely not the way. It could be against Islam, it could be against our iman, it could lower us in our faith. And we want to avoid that, especially for our children. But how about the second part? When the Arabs, the desert dwellers of Arabia, are out here competing with each other to build taller buildings. Well, while visiting in Riyadh, in Jeddah, and in Qatar, and in Bahrain. Everywhere I've been in the Gulf or the Khalij, I have seen it again and again and again. Tall buildings. Tall buildings. And next to it, another building going up to be taller. Even in Mecca itself, today we see 20-story buildings, 30-story buildings, and now 44-story building being built right in front of the Kaaba. This is a clear indication of something, isn't it? Of course, we can't say exactly when is the time, but the signs are there. So be careful how you spend your time. Be careful. Spend as much time as you can taking your breaks during the day for your salah. Taking a break for some dhikr of Allah. Taking a break that you can do what? Recite the Quran. Think of Allah. Think of the last day. Because it's not going to be that much longer when all of us are going to be there on that day of judgment. And then it's going to be too late. Now there's some good news and bad news here. I have good news for all of the human beings of the world. Even the atheists, it doesn't matter what religion they are or lack of religion. I got good news. The good news is Islam teaches us every single human being is going to be brought back to stand up. Stand up again on Yawmul Qiyamah, the day of standing. We'll all be brought back. That's good news. Even if you thought you were going to evaporate and turn into nothing, don't worry, you're coming back. Even if you thought, oh, this person will never be brought back because he's a real bad person. No, that bad person will be brought back too. Everybody's going to be brought back. Good news. The bad news? The bad news is not everybody gets to go to paradise. That's the bad news. In fact, too many people will be going to hell. As we discovered in another program when we heard about this subject. We talked about it also when we spoke about Wal-Asr, that human beings are going to be going to hell, except for those of the right faith and right action. And I'm encouraging myself and you and all the people that the actions are so important. The way we treat each other and the way we treat Allah. Some people will say, well, you know, isn't it more important to be good than to be religious? And that doesn't make any sense. Because in Islam, being good is part of our religion. And worshiping Allah is a part of our religion. And doing the salah is a part of our religion. And you can't leave off part of it for something else. All of it is there. And if you said, well, I just want to pray and I don't want to be nice to the people. Well, that's not Islam. Or if you said, I just want to be nice to the people and I don't want to do salah. That's also not Islam. It works together. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said an amazing thing. He said to his companions, if there was a river beside someone's house and he bathed in it 5 times a day, would there be any dirt on him? They said, well, no way. There's be no dirt on him. He said, in the same way that the river's washing away the dirt from the man, the salah, the 5 times praying every day, washes away the sins. This is amazing. And, you know, before we leave this subject of time, I want to mention something else to you. I was making some notes about this, and it makes sense to me about our time. There was somebody by the name of Hanzala. And Hanzala, he was going along, he looked kind of despondent. And Abu Bakr came to him, radiallahu anhu, and he said, Hanzala, what's up? What's going on with you? He said, well, Allah, there's nifaq, hypocrisy inside of me. He said, what are you talking about? He said, when we're with Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, we're thinking about the last day. It's like it's right in front of us. But then we go home to our children and our wives, and it's like we're playing around. It's like we forget. Abu Bakr said, you know, the same is true for me. He's like, what? Yeah. So they went to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they were talking about this. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, if you could think about the last day the way, like when you're with me, all the time, the angels would be shaking hands with you in the street. But you can't. Because there is a time for this, and there's a time for that. And that's the way he said it. Sa'atan wa sa'a. There's a time for this, and a time for that. And there's been time for this break today, too. And I hope you'll continue to take these breaks and think about what Islam is really teaching us. Until next time, may Allah bless your time and make it productive.